Hey folks, in today's GM Diary, I'm going to share with you my first experience running a game online. Probably not surprising, a lot of gaming has moved online, and I had been playing in a group kind of regularly online, and I got the opportunity to run a one-shot over on the Mercs of Mischief Twitch channel. I'll put a link maybe here or down in the description. If that doesn't work, check down there. So I ran a one-shot that was kind of a prequel to the homebrew campaign that I've talked about in these Game Master Diaries. It was kind of a trying to figure out what I wanted to do as a one-shot. I got this really cool idea that I explained as kind of Rogue One-esque to people and really enjoyed it. But it definitely was a different experience running game online than in person. So I thought I would talk kind of about how I prepped for the game, and then also how it was for me and what I think about it. So the way that my prep changed was I had to set things up in Roll20. That was the game system that I decided to use because I had some experience using it. I will say Roll20 is not the easiest thing, and I might make a whole other video about my full thoughts about Roll20, but there were some advantages to having Roll20 than an in-person table. Like, I could have all my encounters set up with like all the pieces in place and everything, and just click a button and ta-da, we're there, rather than having to like pull everything out and set it up and maybe ask a player if they can move their drink because I need the space on the table. So that was nice. I definitely went through and I set up all the encounters that I was going to need in Roll20, so I didn't have to think about that. And then also we imported all of the character sheets. Some of my players were able to do it on their own, which was great because they know Roll20, and a few people needed help. For the most part, I think we got everything pretty good. There were a few things that didn't want to roll right or pop up the way that I thought they were. We probably just had our macros set wrong, but that's Roll20. So overall, my experience was good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed telling the story. I think in some way playing online was more focused than playing around a table, because you really have to be focused in on the screen. You can't kind of be like hanging out. There's no side conversations, which was both nice because then I had my players' full attention, but also if somebody had a question or needed help, I had to deal with it, or another player had to deal with it, and everything had to stop and pause. Whereas in an in-person table, I've oftentimes had another player that's been able to answer that question kind of while things continue, while I'm in a scene with two of the other players. So in that sense, I feel like there was less time because all those little things that sometimes might be side conversations had to be the main conversation, just because you can't have those side conversations. Now, I do know some people who will use like chat for that, and direct messages. That could have been a way to get around it. I didn't really have it come up that often that it felt like, oh yes, we need to introduce some chat element, something else for people to keep track of on their screens. I also found I could not pay attention to the Twitch chat at all. Normally when I'm a player in a game, I'll kind of have the chat up, and if I'm not active in a scene, I can kind of hop in and comment if somebody has a question of like, what's going on, or who is this person? And then even when I'm in a scene, it's kind of there and I'm aware of it. But when I was running the game, I had it up at first, and I actually had to just kind of like put another window over top of it, because I found it too distracting, as well as like, I think nerves for me. I kept kind of being like, not only am I trying to worry about are my players having fun, but also this was a streamed game, so are the people watching having fun? And I ultimately decided I need to focus on my players. I need to focus on if they're having a good time, and then the audience will hopefully have a good time as well. Now, I think probably what would have been better was if I had ran a game online without being streamed, just to take that one extra element of pressure off. But luckily I felt like the kind of community that tends to tune into those live streams is a really good supportive community, so I definitely felt a lot better jumping in first time running a game online, knowing that, hey, people are going to be supportive, and, you know, if I'm trying my best, even if I get a couple of rules wrong, nobody's going to scream at me in chat. So not only with having to deal with like any rule questions or clarifications, time also felt like it was going by a lot faster, and I don't know if that was because there's like those little second delays or, oh, somebody started talking, I have to stop, that you don't get at the table, but like I ran a 3-hour session that had a 15-minute break, and that's actually the normal amount of time that I usually have done in my in-person tables. But like, I was keeping an eye on the clock, and time was just going by so quickly. And I feel like for whatever reason in an in-person game, time passes a little bit slower, like not in a like, time is dragging, this is not fun, but in a like, we're able to get a little bit more accomplished, and I'm not really sure why exactly. If you have an idea, let me know down in the comments below. Yeah, that was just something I noticed. I also was wiped by the end of this game. I usually am pretty tired by the time that I'm done running a game, just because it requires a lot of attention. I like to kind of be trying to read my players' faces and anticipating and kind of reacting to what they're enjoying, so I can make those small adjustments of like, okay, we'll spend more time on this because they're enjoying this aspect than this aspect over here that they didn't seem to enjoy that much. Or, okay, this one person maybe isn't having the best day, so instead of focusing on their character, we'll focus on another character and kind of give them a little bit of a break. And so all of that requires quite a lot of energy. It's something I enjoy, but I do find myself like, I tend to try and make sure I don't have anything like super big energetic planned the day after I run a game, which is fun at conventions. With running the game online, I was extra wiped, and I think that's because you're not getting that feedback that you get with being in person of all of those nonverbal cues and stuff like that. I was finding it was a lot harder to kind of keep track of how all my players were doing, kind of moving my eye around the screen, trying to watch everybody. And there's also, like, I've read a couple of articles about why Zoom and Skype and all of that makes us more exhausted than in-person meetings. So I think that was coming into play as well. But, you know, I got done and I felt good. I was tired, but I felt really good about it. So I think for me, moving forward, if I do continue to run any games online, I'm definitely going to kind of pare down what I plan to get accomplished in a session, just because that time does seem to go by more quickly and it doesn't feel like you can accomplish as much, as well as, like, if you're live streaming it for an audience, you kind of want to end at, like, satisfactory points in the storyline, so not just like, oh, well, it's 11 o'clock, we gotta stop, bye. So that's an adjustment that I'll probably make moving forward, as well as giving myself a little bit more filler things to kind of throw in if players are not as interested in spending a lot of time in a roleplay session, or we get through this combat super fast, to kind of help, you know, I can buff out those sessions if we're moving through it a lot faster than I planned on, and I don't have everything to get to at the end. And definitely I think I need to do a little bit more research or sit down with a couple of the other gamers that I know who know Roll20 a lot better and learn a little bit more about Roll20, or find a different virtual tabletop to use that might be a little bit more user friendly. I definitely want to try some out, so I can let you folks know what I think about it. So if you have any that you would suggest, let me know in the comments, because I do like how easy Roll20 is to use once everything's set up. It's getting everything set up that that was a little bit complicated, and I think I should have given myself more time for that prep. I spent quite a lot of time in story prep, and I felt really good about that. And I think I would have felt a little bit more confident if I didn't have to be worrying about, okay, this didn't roll. Do the people have actual dice with them or not? Can I just explain to them where they can find the die roller in the app? All of that. I also should note, I was not using Roll20 for the NPC rolls. I was actually rolling the dice at my table, because I didn't want to have to import all of those character sheets. So in the future, may look at actually using Roll20 for the NPCs, since that is sometimes a little bit easier. I don't have to do the math in my head. It's done for me if everything's set up correctly. But I did like rolling stuff and the players not necessarily seeing the rolls all of the time. That's one thing that I don't always love about Roll20 is, if somebody rolls an insight and I roll a deception, they know how well that deception either succeeded or didn't succeed. Or, they know, okay, hey, you rolled a troll's perception, so that means there must be trolls in the area. I'm able to do some of those rolls kind of secretively, and there might be an aspect on Roll20 that I can secretly roll stuff. Haven't found that out yet. But that was one thing that I decided to keep doing kind of for me, and I let my players know, and everybody was like, yeah, that's great, that's fine. All right, so that was kind of some of my thoughts and reactions to running my first game, both online and streamed. So if you've run a game online, if you've been moving your gaming over to online, how have you made changes from meeting in person? And if you stream games, do you have any suggestions for other game masters out there on how to, focus on your players, but also make sure that the audience is having a great time too? Let's talk about it more in the comments below. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Alicia. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we make videos here every Tuesday and we have some bonus videos on Thursdays. All right, I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye. Whew, I can talk. This is good.